What up, y'all? This is Esco with Up On Game Presents Lost Art, and today we have the pleasure of meeting the man, the myth, the legend.
What's up? I'm Gavin Prophet with Lonely Avenue.
What's up, Gavin? How are you, man?
Good. How about you?
I'm alright, actually, dude.
Awesome.
We're just gonna dive right in, man. Thanks for having us here at the
Yeah.
GeoJam house. For the people that don't know you, Gavin, where can people find you? What you're at?
So Instagram is just Gavin Prophet. TikTok also Gavin Prophet, and that's like the main content places. And then with Lonely Avenue, it's pretty much Lonely Avenue on all streaming, and then same with all the
Dope.
handles. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into Lonely Avenue in a bit. So just a little something about what Lost Art is. We created Lost Art to kind of bridge a gap for undiscovered artists, and promote them for what they're already doing, which is working on their craft. We don't ask for anything in return other than to occasionally license your music. I met you earlier last year, and I instantly knew, dude, this dude's sick. Like, he's playing guitar, he's playing the drums, he's singing, he's good at all of them. So what's something that you wish at a glance people that don't know you, like, what do you think, what's something you wish they knew about you?
I guess that like when it comes to like anything, music, and even just like arts and kind of creative process, like I always feel like I contribute something to that, and I feel like I have a really good take, especially on like music.
Yeah. What what's most important to you and the audience that watches your performance?
I like to bring a lot of energy to the stage, and so I like, when the crowd has a lot of energy too, and I think that those two things communicate to each other, and I feel like most of the time when I'm on stage, I really pick up on the crowd's energy, and it just feeds me even more, and I love that.
That's dope. How'd you get to the name Gavin Prophet?
When I was born.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the Prophet stand for?
That's
yeah,
my
in
last
your
name.
real name.
Yeah, it's actually funny how because usually you get your last name from your dad, but my dad was adopted, so he's not like crazy like on his last name.
Yeah.
And so my mom's last name following like generations worth of Prophet.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a cool like.
No,
yeah,
and
the Prophet.
that's even funnier too, is because like I had like stage names in like high school, like Stokey Bro, and like just like things I did for like rap, and like I was always like trying to step away from like my name Gavin Prophet, because I never felt like, especially where I was like at, like that it had a ring to it. I was always just like, yeah, it's my name, like whatever, like.
That's cool, man.
And so I've been embracing it more.
Hell yeah, dude. Gavin, where are you originally from?
So like Sacramento's like the like everyone knows of, but to be more specific, in between Sacramento and like Tahoe, in a town called like El Dorado County, Placerville area, Folsom.
Dope.
People from there.
What high school did you go to?
So El Dorado High School, that's where I'm from, and my dad went to that same school, and my grandma taught at that school. So I got some roots.
Dope. What's the mascot there?
The mascot is a cougar, actually.
Cougar.
A vicious,
I like those.
A vicious cougar.
I like. What? So Gavin, just to take it back, how'd you get into music? Feel free to tell it from as way far back as you can remember.
Anything, yeah. Long story short, I have pictures. I'd even send you some for this.
Yeah.
But like, I have like pictures of me being like, can't even say words yet, and I'm sitting on a drum kit with sticks upside down in my hand, just like hitting shit, like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so since the like beginning of time, my time at least, I've always been like drumming and just being like wild and creative, and just like singing random songs as if I have a band like behind me, like a little 8-year-old, like.
Yeah.
Like just bellowing and just going for it, and there was always some kind of like, you could tell that I just wanted to be creative, be musical, have my own voice on things, and I started taking drum lessons and making it more of like an applicable thing, and learning how to read like sheet music or like drum notation when I was like 10, 11, 12, did little concert bands in like middle school, but that was like playing on a snare drum versus like when I'm by myself, I'm playing on a drum set, and it feels more like a concert, and so like I'm glad that I had that like self-discipline of learning how to play drums like traditionally, as well as like just naturally always having an idea of how to just play rock drums. And then YouTube helped me kind of like, I'd emulate how people do stuff, I pick it up visually, and then I spent so much of my time up until I was like 14 really honing in on my drum craft, and as I kept doing that, I also picked up guitar and was pretty much self-taught, except for like my older stepsister Alyssa taught me how to like play a couple of chords.
Yeah.
You know, like just general finger placement.
Yeah.
And then once I learned how to like apply that to other like just songs, I just the rest is history. I picked it up, learned like bar chords and everything, songwriting, and you know if you learn guitar, you kind of learn how to play bass. And I feel like I've learned so much of music that I can literally teach it to like anyone.
That's
like,
crazy.
If you don't think you guys can play an instrument, I can make you feel like you learned how to play an instrument.
I believe this.
I guarantee it.
I believe this. No, for sure. And so fairly young, you're like introduced to musical instruments. You start playing them. You're like, I want some kind of formal knowledge on it. So you studied it.
Yeah.
And at what point, you know, because most people just go, oh, I'm a drummer or I'm a guitar. I was just telling Ricardo this on the way here. Most people are like, yeah, I kind of play but in this case, you do it all. And on top of that, you're mixing and you know how to track yourself. Tell me about that.
So yeah, mixing and producing, like, I feel like I've always kind of been doing it to a really, really basic extent by, like, using an iPod and GarageBand, and, like, they got enough tools on there to, like, kind of tell what you're doing, like, raise the treble, raise the bass a little bit. So I was always, like, as I was writing songs and, like, trying to make little demos, I was always, like, kind of getting better at producing. Then once the pandemic hit, I bought a laptop. I bought Logic as my main DAW and, you know, an interface. And then I started, like, because throughout my whole life, like, I've been in and out of studios since I was, like, 14 years old. Like, just going in, like, with my band, you know, some of our parents put some money in, us bandmates, and we go and spend, like, $500 to be in the studio for 8 hours. And so I would be there, like, a 14-year-old, go in and lay my punk drums down, and I'd sit and watch for nine hours while the rest of everything goes on, and it was an awesome moment. It was like, you never know how much you learn and the kind of impression it makes when you're just in it, doing it naturally, and yeah.
And now you're able to track yourself, mix yourself. Do you master outside or?
I do a little bit of like everything. I have like a few clients that'll like send me like some songs, like, hey, like just put a master chain on this, or like, hey, I got these waves, can you just like polish them? And you know, like people trust my ear, and I appreciate that. And like I've been fine tuning it ever since. And I also look to others to get perspective because I trust my ear as much as I don't, and I trust others, you know, opinion as well. And so I think that's the whole point of, you know, audio engineering and mixing is like just like work with others, you know, get more ears on your stuff, and you'll learn. So
Logic's your go-to?
Yeah, Logic's my DAW, and like, you know, I mad respect, you know, anyone that uses any type of DAW, and I get the DAW wars out there, but honestly, like, it's all the same.
It is all the same. Science. Yeah. I actually spoke to this Grammy producer 2 weeks ago. His name's Stilo. Shout out to him. He's in downtown LA. He has a few Grammy-nominated records, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, for the people that know, right, there's nerds and then there's like enthusiasts. I'm like, does the DAW really matter? He's like, no.
No,
straight up. He's just like straight up no. So usually if you think back when we're a little younger, we're like, the DAW war is a thing, but when as you get older, you're like, nah. It's really what you know.
Yeah, it's the person mixing it. It's, you know, how well you know your plugins versus stock versus what you're buying, and then the tracks you have. You know, if your tracks are bogus, it's gonna be really fun trying to mix that. But if you got clean everything, it's gonna be a fun ride.
So Gavin, at what point did you decide to start taking music serious, like as serious as you do now?
It's so funny because the seriousness of being like in a music project is so like a roller coaster, because some days you're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing, this is whack, and the other days you're like, this is my job, this is the only thing I want to do. And so like, I mean, again, since I started my first like kind of band or joined one when I was like 11 years old, like 12 years old, like we were jamming in garages, and like before that, when I was a little kid, like 8 to 10 years old, I'd have drum sets at like, you know, one of my grandparents, because they did music and like had their little bands. We could talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
My dad had a drum set at his place down in the basement. I would like walk downstairs and have like a fake set list in my head and just like literally sing a song in my head while drumming and like pretend like I'm at this bit. Like, so I've always been like, it has to happen. Like, I've always been like, I just need to do it. But and it's the same feeling now. It's like, it's always been like I've been taking it seriously, but it's the opportunities that come around, and it's like, you never know, you know, what you're gonna miss. So I've been trying to take like everything. I think that's when it became serious, is when you try to take every opportunity.
That's dope. So as a kid, you've been wanting to do this, but now as a grown man, you're doing it.
Yeah, no, legit. And I know everyone's at different points in their life in, being a performer. And, as much as I've seen highs and lows, I always still feel like the experience is always at a high.
That's dope. And growing up, what kind of kid were you? Were you like a bad kid? Were you like...
I was a pretty good kid. I was like, I was going to say like quiet here and there, but no, I was like obnoxious. I was always getting in trouble for being like way too loud and just talking. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was just like probably ADD, like always wanting to not just sit there and do math. Talk, like drum on my desk. That's literally, I had this one friend reach out to me like a couple months ago, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember being like in school with you, and like this one day, like I could tell, and everyone could tell that you were like sick or something, because you weren't drumming on your desk that day. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I probably was sick. They had to send me, and then they're like, yeah, you ended up going home later that day, so it all makes sense. And I was like, yeah, if I'm not beating up my desk, then I must be sick.
It sounds familiar, man. I mean, growing up, I'd be the kid just tapping on the desk.
Oh yeah.
I can relate. So, dude, what artists, shifting over, what artists would you say helped you growing up personally? I know, like right now, I know we all have our favorites, but what are some of the artists that influenced you growing up?
So like growing up, I mean, even just to name like the commons like of the pop punk era, just like Travis Barker being a really good drummer. My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way being a really theatrical performer. Yeah. Blink-182, how their whole band is like, almost a kingpin of the genre, but half of their music is like jokes and funny, and it's just them being dudes.
That's true.
And it's just like, I think all of those different like aspects inspire my personality and my music as a whole, to the extent that it's like, you have to be a good performer, you have to have the theatrics. You need to be yourself, you need to be able to have fun and be relatable, especially in the TikTok era. You need to be relatable, and so embrace the cringe is what I hear nowadays. And so like, and another artist that I feel like has consistently pulled through is I guess to be fair, Brendan Urie did just leave Panic at the Disco, but that band has been going on literally forever. And like, I know that band name is a little controversial, but just like, I don't know, it blew my mind how successful they got in 2007, and it's just like, they're a very theatrical band. Their music is so different than all the music that was being put out back then, and yet they still are known as such like a kingpin in the industry and the genre. And then just they were able to evolve and keep up with the times, and that's something I always want to be able to do.
So earlier, I think you said something like, hold on, let me think about what I heard you say earlier. You said something like, some days you wake up and you know what you're doing, and some days you don't, right? I believe it or not, I've been speaking to over like 20 artists now, and you're not alone. But the reason I want you to, I know you don't hear this often, but on the outside of like Gavin Prophet, it looks like you're on your shit. It looks like you're getting busy. It looks like you're marketing well, and you're on your way. So that's another reason I wanted to reach out. We're trying to really zone in on these crazy people that we see are projecting to go up.
Yeah, no, thank you, and it means a lot.
Hell yeah.
And like, even aside from like music, like like skateboarding and teaching, and I don't know, just like, I like to do all sorts of like just fun interactive things that it's like, high energy. I like just like
that's good. Energy. That's all good dude traits. So what advice do you have, speaking of kids and teaching, what advice do you have for a young dude who wants to get into playing instruments, but he's intimidated to try? It's like, you meet those people who are like, I don't, and earlier you mentioned you could teach someone, right? Anyone music, but the kid's just like dead set on, nah, man, I suck. What do you want to tell him before you've met him?
It's like a passion thing, and like I said earlier, it's like, you have to have that self-discipline and like want to do it, because if you don't want to do it, you're not going to discipline yourself to do it, and you just kind of have to see the light at the end of the tunnel, that like, if you're passionate about like, I want to be a drummer, and you need, there's no rule set to like, I need to learn these drum beats to be considered a drummer, but it's just like, you should be really proud and confident of your performance, and so start somewhere, anywhere, literally. Like,
it's so crazy we're here right now. I love that, because you started making me think in the same vein of this one scene. You ever seen the show Freaks and Geeks?
It's been a while, but yeah, I have.
So you kind of remember it, though, but like, you know, it's like there's a group of nerds, there's a group of cool kids. There's this one dude he's a drummer.
Yeah.
I forget his name, but it's not James Franco or Seth Rogen. That's how they got discovered.
Yeah.
But there's this other guy. I think he's in he's in one of these shows. But there's this scene where he's trying to get the high school girl, and she's like, "You should sign up to be in this band." Because he was drumming at home, right? He's practicing.
Yeah.
He thinks he's a shit.
Yeah.
And then she signs him up to drum in a extremely professional environment. It's like if we're like, imagine Gavin at 15. They're like, yeah, go sign up for Metallica right now.
Yeah.
And you're like, I got it.
Yeah.
So in this scene, he's like, man, I fucking got it. He's like, I'm gonna go home and practice right now. He goes home, he practices. He gets to the audition. And he was straight shit, right?
Oh, yeah.
But in this case, right, in the show, they show that he's practicing, but still is performing shit. Last night, I got to go out and see you, and you're fucking killing it. You're not missing notes. You're in the double pedal. I don't even know if there was 2 pedals there.
There is. I wish I could do that with 1 foot, but...
But the point I'm trying to make is, how does a kid discipline himself to get to this level of not missing a damn... What is it?
Definitely just, like, doing it so much that,
obsession?
Like... Yeah, like, you love doing it, and, like, you just gotta put yourself in different environments with it, too, and, like, you know, learn the basics. I think, because, again, with anything, you know, music aside, like, you need to know the basics. So learn the basics, and then apply the basics to a bunch of different environments, and, like, see how that influences like your learning capability, you know, and I would just get inspired. Just look, like, find people to idolize, because if you look at someone, you're like, that guy's dope. You're gonna want to do what they do. Yeah. So like, find inspiration.
I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know if you've met Travis Barker.
I would, no.
But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, because it's like, dude, I don't say this. You're vicious at that shit. It was great. And watching Lonely Avenue, we can get into that now. Tell us about Lonely Avenue, how that formed, and what is that for you?
So that band, and it's been through hell and high water and back ×4. It started when we were like 14 years old, like fresh in high school, some bros from middle school into high school. We ended up going to separate high schools, but we were still really good friends on the outside. We started as a 3-piece, but then I was already kind of in like a not as recognized band with my guitar player Pat that you met last night.
Yeah.
Him and I were kind of in a little so-and-so thing from when I was like 13 to 14, but then when that band started when I was 14, it was like, okay, cool. And then the next day Pat joined. So like,
oh wow.
So like had this like 2 kind of bands for a half second, and then it turned into a real band at like, you know, I was like 14 and a half. It was crazy, 2011 into 12, I think. It's
would you say it's hard to find bandmates?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is, our situation, it was super natural and easy, and so that's why I don't relate to it as much, but I know that it's hard to find bandmates.
Right, and so I bring that up to say, Gavin, believe it or not, when I was in, I have a Devil Wears Prada's hat.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
Growing up, I was into music. I had a little drum set, we called it a jelly bean, because it was like all different pieces from different sets.
That's funny. The Franken kit.
Yeah, so I would have it in my house, and I was one of those kids that was like, man, I don't look the part 1 or 2, like, I'm not that good, but I kept playing, right?
That's good.
All the kids would go to my house. Well, I had 3 guys that would come to the house, and they would jam every week. And believe it or not, full circle, our band was called The Lost Art.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's sick.
And so full circle, now we're here doing music, talking to people.
Yeah.
There's a show called... But what happened for me and my like band, they went to college and I didn't. I was just like, all right, I'm going to find my own way. Started working in like IT, but in the back of my mind, doing this was just always the goal, man. So do you guys have any future projects or anything you want to mention right now about what you got going on?
We're just working on releases right now. You know, the new game is putting out singles, you know, so just trying to put out as many singles as possible. We're on a label right now, and so we're just putting out songs to kind of like hit the like, you know, requirements. But I think, you know, within the next couple of months, we'll probably go independent and just start doing this all on our own with distro, and we want to set up a tour for like the summer into the fall or something. And yeah, just you know, just keep pushing pushing content on TikTok and Reels, and trying to network. And I think that's the big difference is starting to work with other artists more. I think that's a big reason why like hip hop, did so well for so long is because of collaboration.
Yeah.
So that's something that I want to do, with Lonely Avenue, just with me, Gavin Prophet as a singer, guitar player, drummer, producer, whatever, is to just collaborate with as many artists as possible over the next.
That's dope, man. I'm loving it, dude. So I'm loving everything I'm hearing. So I have a question. If I've never met you and I'm like, I want to see a music video, what's your go-to?
One of our music videos?
Yeah.
So actually, I think the first one I would tell you to go watch is the one for our song called I'm Not Sorry, because it was filmed in a movie theater that I worked at, and I've worked in movie theaters from when I was like 17 to 23 years old when I moved down here.
Cool.
And yeah, we like rented out the theater from like 3 a.m. to like 7 a.m. and used it for a whole video shoot, and it was pretty badass.
What is I'm Not Sorry about?
That song, and so that song is even more full circle, which is hilarious. Is even pertaining back to the band's history, is we were a band from like 2012, Lonely Avenue, and the band was still going, but in 2014, around like August, 4/5 of the band left.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And so that was just all of us leaving the singer, our singer Casey, and we started this new project called End the Fight, ironically. And then we lost one of the guitar players like right away, so it was a 3-piece band, and that ended up being like End the Fight for a year or so. And in that meantime, the band Lonely Avenue kept going with Casey as the lead singer, and he recruited all new members. He actually did really good. And so in the time with End the Fight, coming back to where the song I'm Not Sorry came from, I wrote that song in high school, like sitting, like senior year, sitting in the desks kind of thing. Kind of about the situation that happened, like leaving Lonely Avenue for the first time.
That's dope.
And so what's funny is that song kind of came out as End the Fight, but never really had an official release because the band kind of fell apart. And then the song got re-recorded as Lonely Avenue and then released. So it's like that song went through 4-ish years of kind of
fluctuating.
There's a version of the song that's completely different than what's out now.
Oh, cool.
And they're both professional mixes.
Oh, wow.
And so it's fun. So whoever has heard, and I mean, I still have the other one around. I could show, I can.
Yeah, definitely. I love.
You could like show a comparison between the two or something.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna want to hear both of them. And so, right now we're on minute 23, but I want to just kind of get this part out where it's like, Gavin, you give me Sleeping with Sirens vibes. You give me Escape the Fate vibe. I know the music stuff is your main thing, but do you ever see yourself managing musicians later?
Yeah, I see myself definitely embracing more of the business aspect of the music, and I mean, business is 95% of what runs the industry. The music is the 5% in the concerts.
Yeah.
And managing, instructing, consultations. Like, I have enough experience in all sorts of avenues, and now I have so much more connections than I've ever had before with like legit people that I feel like I could create a lot of really good opportunities, both for the people I already like know and the people I could bring like together. And that's something I do want to do more often as I start, growing and meeting a lot of new other people in the industry.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, dude, honestly, I feel like we covered so much in such little time, man, but I do want to ask you, like, on a personal level, like, how are you feeling about this now? And like in current time, I know you mentioned earlier that this is like, it's like some days you're feeling it, some days you're not. But for someone who has access to these resources, like, you're living it. You're on stage. How does that feel to be the kid who saw the bands and now you're on stage making noise?
It's dope. I went to my first concert when I was like 6 years old, and my dad like put me on his shoulders. It was for Green Day.
What?
Literally, I was on like his shoulders for like the entire concert. So props to him for literally
Props to
like
Dad.
carrying that experience.
Yeah. Not only that, it seems like you've been almost set up for this, man.
It's been in my blood, and like my mom saw it since the day I was born. She's like, I kind of like low key named you after like Gavin Rosdale, and
Oh
like,
shit.
you know,
Oh, that's what I wanted to bring up. What do you think of Dance Game and Dance?
they're dope. I fuck with them. I mean, I know they've gone like they have their own little sets of controversies, and I think that's just like a lead singer thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, all the vocalists that they've had are super talented.
The guitarists are crazy. Yeah, too.
That
like
whole,
Will Swan.
Yeah, that Swan core. He homie created like a whole genre, and like the math core rock scene like took over Sacramento and so many different industries. And I think what's crazy is how much that tap style, believe it or not, inspired hyperpop.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, a lot. I mean, maybe not. It didn't inspire hyperpop specifically, but there's a lot of new wave guitar, fronted hyperpop. That's that like capoed, tappy, really pleasing melodic sounds with that hyperpop-esque editing and processing.
Another band, I don't know if you're interested, but Chon. Have you heard of Chon?
Chon is sick, dude.
Do you think that drumming skill is just...
It's insane.
It's insane, right?
The reason
As a fellow drummer, that's why I asked.
Well, no, it's fine. I was in a math band for a little bit, and like I know they're kind of like math, but like also kind of like Southwest emo pop, like not pop, but they're just like they're more 4/4 than like crazy time signatures. It's more digestible as a listener.
Right.
But yeah, no, the drumming is insane, and I mad respect those
the
type
switching of the
drummers,
times.
Yeah,
Ricardo, you know what that means, right? Like as you're playing a song, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and somehow they've made these songs to where out of nowhere it'll be like on tempo, and then they'll switch it to 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, out of nowhere. So you get all these crazy. I gotta show you after this on the way home.
Yeah, I can show you some too that you probably ain't heard of that blow your mind.
Send it on over, man.
Yeah.
But look, I know because of the time crunch and everything, we have to get out of here, but this isn't going to be our first time. I would love to keep following you and showing up at your shows.
Yeah.
And we just keep networking and getting this thing up and,
awesome,
up on game. I just want to say thanks to them for having us.
Yeah,
thank you for having Up on Game here at the Geo Jam House.
Yeah, much love.
We definitely want to get into it with you guys wherever we can help and see how we can work something out. And I'll make sure you get Ricardo's contact after this. But other than that, man, I have no more questions for now, dude. Thank you so much for taking this interview, guys. Yeah.